So one of the last thing that Matthew Vaughn did, one of the only things he did before he left, citing personal reasons, was that he cast Kelsey Grammer as the Beast, which I think everyone agreed was a cool idea.
Yes.
At least for the sole reason of his voice.
The way he talks,
the way he speaks. Everyone
You're
not
going to really see what he looks like anyway under all that makeup. That voice was perfect. The sophisticated, refined type of...
Yet in this being of blue fur and, you know, ape-like appearance. Just,
that is what the Beast is. Yeah.
And, I mean, I thought he was a great Beast. I thought, you know, he made a great... It was a great performance, too. It was really good.
Because
I mean, the fact
you got to see him be savage, and in the end, you're like, which was still kind of cool for me to see. You see him kind of unleash his beastness on people.
I'm so used to seeing him as Frasier, you know, playing things for laughs and kind of, you know, even in the quieter moments, kind of being a little bit, you know, in that sitcomish moment. That when there's that one moment in the movie where, you know, he goes to shake the kid's hand and his hand loses the fur and becomes normal for a second, or human looking for a second. He looks at it and he just kind of misses it. He gets nostalgic and he's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "It's all right, it's all right." And he just, I mean, it was a really, I was like almost touched by that. I was like, I was like, way to go, Kelsey Grammer. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he could do it. I mean, he's a classically trained guy, but I never get to see that side.
You never get to see him play dramatic. You rarely do.
It's very quiet.
You know he can.
Quiet, you know, scene there.
Well, Beast is all about quiet dignity, as much as he can with the blue fur.
Yes. So, you know, major props to him. I mean, he was great. They got a couple other guys. They got the guy. I forget his name, but the guy that played Angel, Ben Foster. That's his name. He was decent. They didn't really give him that much to do. I remembered him in The Punisher, which I thought, which I thought was fun, and he was, you know, pretty good in that part too.
6 Feet Under.
And that's right, in 6 Feet Under.
And Ellen Page is Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, and
I did like
Ellen
her.
Page playing
I did
Kitty
like
Pryde
her. She
now.
was a lot of fun.
And the whole love triangle then turned out to be between Bobby and Kitty instead of, you know, Rogue and Gambit. So that became something else there.
But still, it was a fun Kitty Pryde. She had a couple of fun scenes.
Yeah, not that much to do, but, you know, there's a couple things there. I mean, she had her face off with Juggernaut there, so that was it. And I thought Vinnie Jones was a decent choice to play the Juggernaut. It would have been interesting if they had gone in just thinking of, you know, even slightly exploring the relationship between him and Xavier.
Well, he did have the Cockney accent.
He did have that's the thing. He was British.
He is British,
you know. So that there was still something that I thought maybe they'd go, but of course no, they didn't.
They didn't go there, but they still gave him the accent. You know, I'm the Juggernaut.
To at least have him look at him and just, you know, have the line, you know, before anything else, and just say, "Hello, brother," and then just, you know, move on to something else before anything else can happen.
Even that, but then they figured maybe it would be too confusing because they're not going to go there for the.
And Pyro, who we forgot to mention in X2, who we liked the guy in X2 who played Pyro, Aaron Stanford. And then he went on to play Pyro in X3. They brought him back, and they brought the guy who played Colossus back, because I guess everyone responded well to that scene, to have him be Colossus a little bit more.
But they didn't give him much more to do, which I was like, well, why bother?
Yeah. And
seemed to,
yeah, he had some stuff. He had like multiple men, and he also had the beginning of them starting to actually, you know, when Brett Ratner took over, they started making up mutants, as opposed to looking through the history, which, you know, Bryan Singer, it seemed like he actually took the time out to try to, whenever possible, make up, you know, not instead of just making up mutants, trying to find one that actually exists, because there's plenty of them in the X-Men
thousands of mutants
that you could get.
There's a huge archive of mutants. Pull some of those guys and their powers and put them in, instead of just, this person is a porcupine boy, and here we have,
he can get little sharp cones that come out of his wrists. It's like,
it's like this girl, and you're like, well, you can do that. I mean, the X-Men universe, there are plenty of people with hidden powers. You can do that, but it's like, why? You don't have to.
Yeah.
You know, why not pull someone that we already know of, just as a quick little cameo, as a fun little, oh, there's so-and-so.
The cone guy, well, the cone guy, I mean, the fight sequence was all right and everything. It was fun, but at the same time, it was like, well, I don't know. I mean, they could have found something, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, everyone did a decent job, as far as performing in it goes. I mean,
yes.
and the effects, they really had to rush this production, I guess, because I mean, they started this thing 9 months, I think, which is
ridiculous
before
for a
the
movie
release
like
date.
this.
So they had to. I mean,
that, by the way, was another bad news.
From what I heard, they gave out bits of the effects to different companies to try to make sure they made it on time. Mm-hmm. And but then,
by the way, that was another bad news, that they rushed it, and everybody knew they rushed it because they couldn't nail down a director until late, and yet they wouldn't push back the release date. Fox is just like, you know what? Well, screw you guys. This movie's coming out now, come hell or high water. That seems to be their mentality.
And they rushed it with the script they had on hand, which I remember when reviews came out of it, which turned out to be what they used it. It was people were very unhappy when you find out that someone like Xavier and Cyclops, that they're just gonna bite it, and it's just
for no apparent reason.
It's like, and you understand, I guess, whatever why. It's like
it feels like Fox made this movie out of spite to Superman Returns, and they wanted to put it out the same year as Superman Returns if it kills them.
I don't know.
It's a spite movie.
Why rush it? This is the climax to the whole Phoenix saga. It's like before, when Bryan Singer was on it, they were talking about splitting the film up in two to make sure that they did it right. But I don't know. But anyway, so that
before I give myself a hernia.
So obviously there were things that people were upset about. And some of the dialogue felt a little bit stilted. There's a line I remember that got a laugh in the audience we were in when we saw it, that's Xavier examining Jean on the table, like, how is this possible? How is she here? How is the Thar die? He said, she was at the bottom of that lake. The only idea I have is that her mental energy formed a cocoon that sheltered her psychic from all this stuff, and everyone just kind of went... Everyone just started laughing in the audience, because it's like, we knew that there is a cocoon in the comic books.
That's what happened
but it's
to
like
her,
to just try to use a throwaway line is rather awkward. It's just,
a very awkwardly fitted. I mean,
know.
I know what they're trying to get at. I know what they're trying to. I know what they're trying to. Hint at, that this is what happened, and that they're making a reference to the comic book. But it was so awkwardly done. It seemed so unnecessary and so just forced, that dialogue, that I do remember that.
And why make it The Last Stand? Why try to make this the last X-Men movie, which is kind of felt almost like what they were doing. I mean, and because then immediately they go into spin-offs as far as prequels. It's like you don't have to finish.
This is how it's going to end?
You have so many mutants at your disposal that even if you lose actors, you can easily just cast new ones, and no one will bat an eye because you have so many characters and different teams, and just get different. It shifts all the time in the X-Men universe. You could get. I didn't get it. Why they felt the need to say no, it's a trilogy, and that's all that can be.
So basically, that's how it's going to end. Come on. And of course, as soon as we heard that Brett Ratner is going to be the director, we basically thought, oh, well, it's screwed. Yeah. Not that we have anything against Brett Ratner, except he's a total douchebag. But if you ever read an interview with Brett Ratner, you would know he's a competent director, but that's all he is. He's a hired hand. He will do whatever the hell the studio tells him to do, and that's it. Rush Hour was like that, but Rush Hour had Jackie Chan, and it had Chris Tucker. The energy of those two themselves made the movie. Brett Ratner didn't really do much. All he did was point the camera and shoot.
Well,
anyway.
I don't want to get. I don't want us to get too much into a thing here about Brett Ratner. He's actually another one that I kind of feel bad. I feel bad whenever I name anyone specifically, because I don't want anyone to take offense. I'm not trying to burn any bridges here, But it's just, there's sometimes it's easy things to just kind of make jokes at people's expense, because we're trying to still reflect the large fan opinion. So
this isn't at his expense. I read an interview from Entertainment Weekly with Brett Ratner, and right around the time he took the job, and the way he sounds so pretentious and just so, well, I'm just in the game. He actually said, I became a director to get chicks. He actually said that.
I don't know if that's an exact quote, but
basically
there's something
that's
like
basically the what he said. He said, and the women is great.